Supernatural. You might have recently seen, I say recently, it was quite a bit ago, and this has been a long time coming. You may have seen me do Buffy. Yeah, I want to do Buffy.
Cringeworthy.
100%.
You may have seen me do Buffy in the same style, but this is exactly what I'm doing with Supernatural. It's the exact same way I did Buffy, season by season. And as we always do with these type of videos, of course you start at season 1 and work your way back. And of course, talk about a little bit about the season, and we'll talk a little bit about the good, the bad and the ugly of the episodes. That's where we're starting, like we always have. And I'm going to start with the bad, because of how bad it is. I'm not going to talk overly about it. But Bugs, in season 1, is a very bad episode. It's an episode that just doesn't work within the season, you know. They initially started with this whole creature feature type thing. Creature of the week, monster of the week, that kind of thing. And eventually it became about the brothers, the Winchesters. But unfortunately this episode does kind of delve a bit more into the brotherly thing than it does into the creature of the week type thing that they were going with in the earliest days, and it just falls flat. There's just nothing to it that brings anything new, you know. I mean, you can say easily that Supernatural doesn't bring a lot of new to the mix. However, I do think that the issues that show up in this episode are ones that they fixed later on down the line to bring us some of the best episodes ever made of TV. But unfortunately, Bugs is not one of them. So moving on, we're going to talk about the good now. And the good, for me, in this season, is Skin. Skin talks about supernatural shapeshifters. The shapeshifters in this series, I absolutely love. I absolutely love the way they did the shapeshifters. How you figure out they're shapeshifters with the light up light eyes. Brilliant. Do I think there could have been more with it? Yeah, they could have done a lot more with shapeshifters. However, it's just about that sort of thing later on in the series where it sort of does it. Each season there's a shapeshifter involved, or a shapeshifter story involved. This one for me is one of the better few of the shapeshifter stories. It's very, very good. You know, Dean becomes subject to one of them. And it actually starts up the whole thing of the boys coming across the law, which is a big part of Supernatural. You know, the boys come across the law-abiding police, the FBI, you know, certain agents come into it. And it all starts here. Because obviously what they do is not something that can be televised. It's not something that you can do out and about and have people know about it, because they'd freak out. People just wouldn't be able to accept that the supernatural is a real thing. And in this episode it sort of shows that, like, you know, the boys know that it's not ready for the world. And that's something that I think continues through the series. You know, it's not a big story point to the series, but it definitely comes up every now and then. But that episode is purely one of the best episodes of the series, in my opinion. You know, there's a lot of good episodes in the season. Faith is a very good episode. One that I know the writers have said is a turning point in the series, because Faith was always intended to be the jump from Monster of the Week to the brothers. The biggest part of this season is about the brothers, about Sam and his distrust of his dad, Dean and his loyalty to his dad, a lot of family, you know. But of course this show is all about saving people, hunting things, and the family business. That's what this show comes down to at the end of the day, and this season pushes it forward big time. Of course, it being the first season, kind of has to. But you know, when you think about that company line of, you know, saving people, right? They do that week in, week out, season to season, with no problem. The family business is, of course, being Sam and Dean, and the dad, John. Very early on, them searching for John, they're searching for their dad. That is very key to the start of the series. But then, of course, it comes down to Sam and Dean, and what Sam and Dean do, and how they do it, and the right way of doing it, so to speak. There's no way the brothers could do it without one another. You know, it's really, really strong, and it's something that's built throughout the series. Of course, the ugly side of the season is probably the story arc that's really stretched out. You don't get many episodes to do with the actual main story arc. You know, like, the first episode is basically Dean going to get his brother because he needs help to find his dad. Second episode, they're on a hunt for a Wendigo. Another one that's probably not one of the highest rated episodes, but I actually quite enjoy. Because it's the lads out and about in the real world dealing with real people who are trying to deal with a Wendigo. A Wendigo. But you get all of these little sections, right? So you've got that, and then it sort of becomes the creature of the week for a while. You do get an episode with Missouri and John being there, but not being there. Then you get the stuff with Meg, first Meg, which is really interesting. Don't get me wrong. It's just that it's all cut up into the season. Like, if it was a shorter season, if it was an 8-episode season, there would be no breaks from it. I think that's where it's weakest. Because, like, you get stories later on with Amara in season 11, where it's constant Amara for, like, the first 8 episodes. And then the 8th episode comes along. So 7 episodes. But then the 8th episode comes along and it becomes more like the supernatural style that we know with the Monster of the Week sort of thing. Or the Castiel stuff, when the angels come along. You know, the story continued throughout the series. Of course, you can't really do a series where they're talking about the devil, trying to open the gate to the devil. You can't really avoid doing that. With a season like that, you can't really just put it in a couple of episodes. It has to be the whole season. Whereas this season, like I said, it wouldn't necessarily improve the season per se, but I don't think it disses up on the season either. So it works across the board for everything that it does. However, I just wish we could keep it in line, just so that it's at the forefront of your mind. Because when you watch season 1, you know, it's very disjointed until towards the end, when you come to that straightforward story that John is chasing down the demon that killed their mom and the demon that killed Jess. Same demon, Yellow Eyes. Zazel, I think they gave the name of. So yeah, I mean, you know, while there are some really good points to the series and there's some little tidbits that could fix the series, for a first season, I think it's the better side of things. Like, you take a look at the Buffy season 1, and I think Buffy season 1 does have trouble with it. However, not like, you know, whereas Supernatural does work, and Buffy had a shorter series in season 1, so it just shows that sometimes shorter episodes does not necessarily mean that you can improve the writing or improve the way it goes. I still think Supernatural season 1 is a better season than Buffy season 1, but that doesn't necessarily mean that what works for Buffy will work for Supernatural, and that's the way this kind of goes. For me, season 1, you know, it gives you everything you need. It gives you the main storyline for the series, which is the brothers. It gives you some creatures and some monsters, some of which you're very well known to. Others, like Wendigos, something that you might have heard of in another show, like say Teen Wolf, I believe, bring up Wendigos. You get other shows. I think actually Teen Wolf started after Supernatural, so that doesn't really work. But there's the obvious ones, werewolves and vampires, that everyone knows. Ghosts, obvious. Demons, to a certain extent, are also obvious. Then you get ones like Wendigo, and as the series goes on, Chupacabras, Shapeshifters, ones that you don't know enough about to know what the story's going with. And that's why I love Supernatural. Supernatural is one of my favourite shows, and that will never change. But anyway, I know this was a little bit quicker than what I naturally do, but I want to get this video out, therefore I've sort of rushed it forward a little bit. But anyway, I've been Scrivo, this has been Scrivosphere, and that's season 1. And season 1 gets a 9 out of 10 for me. I will see you next time, folks, for season 2.